The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. It could hold 10,000 beings at once. The ceiling was so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Light came from floating crystals that moved slowly through the air like lazy fish in water. On this day, the hall was full. Representatives from 412 species sat in their assigned places. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others breathed gases that would kill a human in seconds. Special barriers kept everyone safe and comfortable. Ambassador stood alone at the center of the floor. She was a small woman, barely reaching the chest of most aliens in the room. Her black hair was tied back simply. Her uniform was clean but not fancy. She had served as humanity's voice in this council for 15 years. Today would be her last day. "The vote is complete," announced High Chancellor. He was a species that looked like a mixture of a lizard and a tree. His bark-like skin was gray with age. His eyes, 3 of them arranged in a triangle on his face, looked down at without any warmth. "The Council has decided. By a margin of 341 to 71, the motion passes." Did not react. She had expected this result. She had watched the politics shift over the past 5 years. She had seen old friends turn cold. She had noticed how humans were slowly pushed out of important committees. She had reported all of this to Earth, but there was nothing anyone could do. "The human species," continued, reading from a floating screen, "will have its travel rights reduced to their home system and 3 designated trade stations. Human membership in the Council will be downgraded from full status to observer status. Human ships will no longer be permitted in restricted zones. Human citizens currently living on non-human worlds will have 1 standard year to relocate." The words hit like stones, one after another, but kept her face calm. She had practiced this moment in her mirror many times. A delegate stood up. They looked like tall birds with 4 arms. This one had bright blue feathers that showed his high rank. "I wish to add a statement to the record," he said. "The Dominion supported this motion because humanity has proven itself too primitive for equal standing. They have been members for only 200 years. This is not enough time to judge a species worthy of full rights." Other delegates made sounds of agreement. Clicks, hisses, and strange musical tones filled the air. Wanted to remind them that humans had done more in 200 years than most species did in 1,000. She wanted to list every time a human ship had rushed to help during disasters. She wanted to talk about the medicines humans had shared freely. She wanted to mention the wars humans had helped end with patient talking instead of weapons. But she said nothing. They would not listen. They had already decided. "Does the human representative wish to speak?" asked. It was a formality. He clearly expected her to cry or beg or make angry threats. Took a slow breath. "Yes, High Chancellor, I will speak." The hall became quiet. Everyone wanted to see how the humans would react to their punishment. 200 years ago, began, her voice steady and clear, humanity found the first signal from another species. We were scared. We were excited. We did not know what to expect. When we finally met the Galactic Council, we thought we had found a family. She paused and looked around the room. Some delegates looked away from her eyes. Others stared with cold faces. "We gave everything we could," she continued. "When they suffered the great earthquake, human engineers worked for 3 years to stabilize your continental plates. We asked for nothing in return. When the plague spread across 12 systems, human doctors volunteered to find a cure. 60 of them died in the process. When the trade routes near the fallen zone became too dangerous, human ships patrolled them for free so that commerce could continue." Shifted uncomfortably on his seat. "Ambassador, this is not the time for." "When the and the were about to go to war," continued, ignoring him, "it was a human diplomat who spent 18 months traveling between both sides until peace was reached. His name was. He missed the birth of his daughter. He missed her first steps. He missed her first words, but he kept working because he believed in peace." The blue-feathered who had spoken earlier looked down at his hands. His feathers lost some of their brightness. "We did all of this," said, "because we thought we were part of something bigger. We thought we were contributing to a community. We thought that kindness would be remembered." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "We were wrong." The silence in the hall was heavy. Even the floating crystals seemed to move more slowly. "Humanity accepts the Council's decision," announced. "We will not fight it, we will not argue, we will simply leave." A murmur went through the crowd. They had expected anger. They had prepared for threats. Quiet acceptance confused them. "Leave," repeated. "The motion does not require you to leave the Council entirely. You will still have observer status. You can still participate in discussions." Shook her head. "No, High Chancellor, we will not sit quietly and watch while having no voice. That is not who we are. If we are not wanted as equals, we will not stay as beggars." "This is dramatic and unnecessary," said a delegate. There were small, round creatures covered in soft fur. They were known for their banking systems. Humanity is simply being asked to prove itself worthy over more time. This is standard procedure for young species. "They were given full membership after 150 years, replied calmly. "The after 120, the after just 90 years. Humanity has waited longer than any of them, and yet we are told to wait more." They had no response. The numbers were correct and everyone knew it. "This decision was not about time," said. "It was about fear. Humanity grows too fast. We learn too quickly. We adapt too well. Some species look at us and see potential. Others look at us and see a threat. Today, the fearful ones have won." Slammed his hand against his podium. "You go too far, Ambassador. You accuse this council of acting from fear. We have existed for 50,000 years. We do not fear a species that has barely left its own planet." "Then why this vote?" asked simply. "Why now? What have we done wrong?" No one answered. "We have started no wars," continued. "We have broken no laws. We have honored every treaty. We have helped every species that asked for help. We have even helped species that did not ask." She spread her hands. "What is our crime? Growing too fast, being too friendly, caring too much." A delegate stood slowly. They were tall and thin, with silver skin and large dark eyes. They were known as one of the more friendly species toward humans. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "we should reconsider this vote. The ambassador raises valid points." "The vote is complete," said firmly. "It cannot be undone for at least 10 standard years. That is council law." "Then we will be gone for at least 10 standard years," said. "Perhaps forever." She reached up and removed the small pin from her uniform. It was the symbol of council membership, a golden spiral that represented the galaxy. She had worn it every day for 15 years. She placed it gently on the floor in front of her. "Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council," she announced. "Effective immediately. All human personnel will leave Council space within 30 days. All human aid programs will end. All human trade agreements will be canceled. All human military support will cease." Now the murmurs became shouts. Delegates stood up from their seats. The calm that had maintained was breaking. "You cannot simply leave," said. "There are procedures, contracts, obligations." "Read them again," said. "We wrote most of them. We made sure there was always a way out. We hoped we would never need it." She looked at with clear eyes. "We were wrong about that too." A delegate pushed forward. They were large and muscular, covered in thick scales. They were warriors by nature. "If humans leave, who will patrol the fallen zone trade routes?" "Not our problem anymore," said. A delegate spoke up. They were a species of connected minds, thousands of small creatures that thought as one. Their voice came from many mouths at once. "Who will staff the emergency medical stations in the outer systems? Humans make up 70% of volunteer doctors." "Not our problem anymore," repeated. More questions came. Who would maintain the old communication relays? Humans had built most of them, who would continue the research on the dying star in Sector 7. Humans led that project, who would teach at the cultural exchange schools. Humans ran most of them. To each question gave the same answer, not our problem anymore. Finally, the hall fell quiet again. The reality was starting to sink in. Humans did not hold any official power in the council. They had no special authority, but they were everywhere, doing small jobs that no one else wanted to do, jobs that kept everything running smoothly. "You are making a mistake," said. His voice had lost some of its confidence. "Humanity will regret this choice." Looked at him for a long moment. "No," she said softly, "you are making a mistake, and you will regret this choice. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when that day comes, remember this moment. Remember that you had a friend who asked for nothing but respect, and you threw that friend away." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent hall. No one tried to stop her. At the door, she paused and looked back one last time. 412 species watched her, some with anger, some with confusion, a few with regret. "Goodbye," said simply. "We will miss what we thought you were." Then she walked out and did not look back. The door closed behind her with a soft sound. In the great hall, the delegates sat in silence. The floating crystals continued their slow dance. The light continued to fall from above. But something had changed. Something important had ended. And deep down, in places they did not want to examine, some of them knew that they had made a terrible mistake. They just did not know how terrible it would become. Outside the great hall, walked to the human transport ship. Her team was waiting for her. Young men and women who had served the council with pride. Now they would go home. A young man named approached her. He was her assistant, barely 25 years old. His eyes were red from crying he had tried to hide. "Did they listen?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "No," said, "they never do, not until it is too late." She looked up at the sky of the councils. It was purple with 3 small moons visible even in daylight. It was beautiful. She would never see it again. "Come," she said to her team. "Let us go home. We have much work to do." "What kind of work?" asked. Smiled, and this time it was not sad. It was determined. The kind of work that will make them remember what they have lost. They boarded the ship. The engines hummed to life, and humanity began its quiet departure from the galactic stage. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its meeting as if nothing important had happened. They moved on to the next item on their agenda: trade disputes, border conflicts, budget allocations. They did not know that they had just started a countdown to the moment when they would finally understand what they had done. But that moment was still coming, and when it arrived, it would change everything. 6 months had passed since the humans left. At first, no one noticed much difference. The Galactic Council continued its work. Ships traveled between stars. Trade moved from world to world. Life went on. But small things started to change. Tiny problems that no one paid attention to at first, like cracks in ice that spread slowly before the whole surface breaks. Ambassador of the stood in her office on the councils. She was staring at a communication screen that showed only static. The screen had worked perfectly for 30 years. Now it was broken. "When will the repair team arrive?" she asked her assistant. The assistant, a young with nervous silver eyes, checked his tablet. "The request was sent 4 days ago, Ambassador. There is no response yet." 4 days, frowned. "Repairs usually happen within hours." "Yes, Ambassador, but the emergency repair service has changed." Turned to look at him. "Changed how?" The assistant swallowed hard. "The humans ran it, Ambassador. They were the ones who responded to repair calls across council space. Fast ships, skilled workers available at any hour. When they left—" He did not finish the sentence. Was quiet for a moment. She remembered now. The repair ships had always been human. Small vessels painted in bright colors, crewed by cheerful humans who fixed things quickly and never complained. She had seen them many times but never really thought about them. "Who runs the service now?" she asked. "They contracted it out to a private company. Response time is now estimated at 10 to 14 days, and the cost has tripled." Sat down heavily in her chair, a small thing, just a broken screen, but it was the first sign of something larger. Across Council space, similar scenes were happening every day. On the planet Prime, the capital, a hospital was facing a crisis. 12 doctors had resigned in the past month. Not doctors, human doctors. They had worked in the intensive care unit handling the most difficult cases. Now they were gone. Head physician walked through the empty halls where humans once worked. The beds were still there. The equipment was still there. But the humans who knew how to use it best were not. "We have requested replacement staff from the medical guild," his assistant reported. "They say it will take 8 months to train new doctors for this specialty." 8 months, repeated. "And what do we do with patients who need care now?" The assistant had no answer. Stopped at a wall where photographs hung. They showed the human medical team that had served here for decades. Smiling faces, names written below each picture. Doctor, doctor, nurse menu, nurse. People who had worked long hours for low pay because they believed in helping others. He had never thanked them, not once in 20 years. He had always assumed they would be there. In the fallen zone, things were much worse. This region of space was dangerous, full of asteroids and radiation storms. Pirates had always wanted to control it because the trade routes that passed through it were valuable, but they had never succeeded. Because humans had patrolled there. Captain of the trading vessel was learning this the hard way. His ship floated dead in space, its engines destroyed by a pirate attack. Around him, 3 pirate vessels circled like hungry animals. "Please," he begged over the communication channel. "Take the cargo, take everything. Just let my crew live." The pirate captain laughed. He was big and brutal, with scars covering half his face. "Where are your human friends now, little trader? Where are the patrol ships that used to protect you?" Did not answer. He knew the answer. The humans were gone. They had left 6 months ago, and no one had replaced them. The fallen zone was now open territory for anyone strong enough to take it. "Kill them all," the pirate captain ordered, "and take the ship. We can sell the parts." The exploded 15 minutes later. No distress signal was ever answered. No rescue ship came, and his crew of 12 became just another number in a growing list of casualties. Back on the council, daily life was changing in ways both large and small. In the translation offices, chaos was growing. The Galactic Council used hundreds of translators to help species understand each other. For decades, humans had made up the largest group of translators. They had a gift for languages that other species did not understand. A human could learn a new language in months. Other species took years. Now the translation department was struggling. Meetings were delayed because there was no one to translate between the and the. Trade deals fell apart because documents were translated incorrectly. Arguments started because words were misunderstood. Senior translator, a collective, had never felt so tired. Their many bodies worked constantly, trying to fill the gaps left by the humans, but there were too many gaps. "We need to hire more translators," said to the council administration. "There are no more translators," the administrator replied. "The humans took their language skills with them. We have sent requests to other species, but no one is interested. The pay is too low and the work is too hard." Remembered a human translator who had worked beside them for 30 years. Her name was. She had been small and quiet, with a smile that made everyone feel comfortable. She spoke 47 languages fluently. When she left, she had simply said goodbye and walked away. Had not even said thank you. On the outer worlds where Council control was weakest, the problems were becoming dangerous. These planets depended on supply ships that came from the center of Council space. Food, medicine, technology, all of it came from far away. Humans had run most of the supply lines, not because they were ordered to, but because no one else wanted to. The pay was bad. The routes were long and boring. The planets at the end were poor and could not offer much in return. But humans did it anyway. They said it was because everyone deserved help, no matter how far away they lived. Now the supply ships came less often. Sometimes they did not come at all. On the planet VII, Governor watched his people line up for food that was running out. The last supply ship had come 2 months ago. The next one was scheduled for. He checked his records. 6 more weeks. "We will not last 6 weeks, his advisor said grimly. "The grain stores are almost empty. The water purification systems are failing. We sent emergency requests, but no one responds." "What about the emergency aid program?" asked. "That was run by humans, Governor. It ended when they left." Closed his eyes. He remembered voting in favor of the motion against humans. He remembered thinking it was a small matter, a political game that did not affect real life. He understood now. It affected everything. In the scientific community, research was grinding to a halt. Humans had been involved in hundreds of projects across Council space. They were not the scientists, but they were the most persistent. When others gave up, humans kept trying. Dr. of the was starring at a project that had taken 40 years to build. It was a telescope designed to look at the edge of the universe, the most advanced scientific instrument ever created. And it was broken. "The calibration systems are failing," her assistant reported. "We need a specialist to repair them." "Who designed those systems?" asked, though she already knew. "A human team, Doctor. They worked on this project for 20 years. When they left, they offered to train replacements. We said it was not necessary." Remembered that meeting. She remembered how confident everyone had been. Humans were just technicians. Their work could be learned from manuals. Their knowledge was not special. They were wrong. The calibration systems used techniques that no manual described. The human engineers had developed them through trial and error over decades. That knowledge was gone now, locked inside minds that were light years away on a planet that no longer answered calls. The telescope would remain broken, 40 years of work wasted. In the Dominion, military leaders were having uncomfortable meetings. They had always been proud warriors, but they had grown used to peace. For 100 years, they had not fought a real war. During that time, humans had served as peacekeepers, not peacekeepers, human peacekeepers, small teams that traveled to conflict zones and talked to both sides until fighting stopped. They were good at it, better than anyone else. Now conflicts that had been quiet for years were heating up again. Old hatreds were coming back. Border disputes that humans had settled were being reopened. "They are moving ships toward our territory," General Vance reported to the Council. "They claim we stole 3 of their mining asteroids." "That dispute was settled 20 years ago," the Council leader said. "It was settled by humans," Vance replied. "They say the agreement is no longer valid because humans are no longer here to enforce it." The Council leader's blue feathers darkened with anger. "This is ridiculous. An agreement is an agreement." They do not see it that way. And without human diplomats to mediate, I do not know how we will avoid war. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, High Chancellor was having his own problems. Every day, more complaints arrived on his desk. Every day, more systems failed. Every day, more species blamed the Council for things going wrong. "The medical stations need staff," one report said. "The trade routes need protection," said another. "The communication relays need maintenance," said a third. All of these problems had the same solution, a solution that was no longer available. sat in his office late at night, looking at the pile of problems. He remembered the day the humans left. He remembered her calm face and her quiet words. He remembered thinking she was bluffing. Humans were emotional creatures. They would come back when they realized how much they needed the council. But humans did not come back. And the council was starting to realize how much they needed humans. A soft knock came at his door. His assistant entered with another report. "High Chancellor, there is a situation on the... A plague has broken out. The local medical teams cannot contain it." "Contact the Emergency Medical Reserve," said. "That was a human program, sir. It no longer exists." Was silent for a long moment. "How many are infected?" 3 million so far. The number is growing every hour." 3 million, and no one to help them. Thought about the human doctors who had cured the last plague. They had worked for 2 years and 60 of them had died doing it. They had done it for free, asking only for thanks. They did not even get thanks. Instead, they got a vote that took away their rights. "What are our options?" asked quietly. "We could ask the humans for help," his assistant suggested carefully. Shook his head. "We cannot. If we ask now, it will look like we were wrong to vote against them. It will make the council look weak." "With respect, High Chancellor, we are weak. We just did not know it until now." Had no response to that. On Earth, far away from council space, life continued peacefully. Humans had turned inward, focusing on their own world and their own people. They had stopped watching the galactic news. They had stopped caring about council politics. Ambassador, retired now, sat in her garden and watched the sunset. Her grandson played in the grass nearby. It was a simple life, but it was a good one. Sometimes she thought about her old colleagues in council space. She wondered how they were doing. She wondered if they missed the humans who used to help them. Her communicator buzzed, a message from someone in council space. The 5th one this week. She did not read it. She deleted it like all the others. "Grandmother," her grandson asked, "why do you keep getting messages from the stars?" "Because some people only remember their friends when they need something," replied gently. "Come inside. Dinner is ready." She took his hand and walked into her home. Behind them, the sun set on a peaceful earth. But in the vast darkness of council space, the night was just beginning, and it would get much darker before any light returned. The cracks were spreading, the ice was breaking, and soon, very soon, the whole surface would collapse. The Galactic Council had made its choice 6 months ago. Now they were starting to understand the consequences. But the worst was yet to come. 2 years after the humans left, the Galactic Council was falling apart. It did not happen all at once. It happened slowly, like a building losing bricks one by one. First the small bricks, then the bigger ones. Then the walls started to lean. Then the roof began to crack. And finally, everyone could see that the whole structure was about to collapse. The war between the and the started on a Tuesday. It began with a small fight over a mining asteroid. Both sides claimed ownership. Both sides sent ships. Shots were fired. Ships were destroyed. And suddenly, 2 of the largest military powers in council space were at war. High Chancellor called an emergency meeting. The great hall was filled with shouting delegates. Everyone blamed everyone else. No one knew what to do. "We must stop this war," declared. "It will destroy trade. It will kill millions. It will tear the council apart." "Then send diplomats," the ambassador suggested. "Open negotiations. Find a peaceful solution." "With what diplomats?" replied bitterly. "Our best negotiators were human. They are gone. The diplomats we have left cannot agree on where to hold a meeting, let alone how to end a war." It was true. In the old days, human diplomats would have already been on their way to both sides. They would have listened. They would have talked. They would have found common ground where no one else could see it. Humans had a strange gift for understanding anger and turning it into peace. No other species could do it the same way. but humans were gone, and no one could replace them. The war spread quickly. Other species chose sides. Old alliances were tested. New hatreds were born. Within 6 months, half of Council space was involved in fighting. Trade stopped almost completely. Ships were afraid to travel. Pirates controlled entire sectors. The economy, already weak from losing human workers, collapsed into chaos. On the planet Prime, food riots broke out in major cities. They had always imported most of their food from other worlds. Now those imports were blocked by war and piracy. People were starving. Governor stood on the roof of his government building, watching fires burn across the capital city. His people were destroying their own home because they were hungry and scared. "How do we let this happen?" he asked his advisor. "We voted against the humans," the advisor replied quietly. "We thought we did not need them. We were wrong." Remembered the old days. Human agricultural experts had helped to develop better farming techniques. Human engineers had built water systems that fed millions. Human volunteers had worked on farms during harvest season, asking only for food and shelter in return. All of that was gone now. The farms were failing. The water systems were breaking, and no one knew how to fix them. "Can we ask the humans for help?" wondered. "We can ask, but they do not answer anymore. Their borders are closed. Their communications are blocked. They have turned away from the galaxy." Watched another building catch fire. Can you blame them? In the medical centers of Council space, death was spreading. The plague, which had seemed small at first, had grown into a catastrophe. 40 million were dead. Another 100 million were infected. Doctor of the Medical Council had not slept in 3 days. She was working constantly, trying to save patients she could not save. Her team was exhausted. Her supplies were running out. And still the sick kept coming. "We found the old human research," her assistant reported. "The work they did during the last plague. Maybe we can use it to create a cure." "Show me," demanded. The assistant brought up the files on a screen. Pages and pages of research, experiments, results, theories, decades of work by human scientists who had given their lives to understand the plague. But there was a problem. "It is incomplete," said, her heart sinking. "The final formula is missing. The last steps of the cure are not here." "The humans who developed the cure took that knowledge with them when they left," the assistant explained. "They offered to train our scientists before they went. We refused. We said we could figure it out ourselves." Closed her eyes. Pride. Stupid, foolish pride. It had killed millions and would kill millions more. "Contact the humans," she ordered. "Beg them if we have to. Tell them we were wrong. Tell them we need help." "We have tried, Doctor. Many times. They do not respond. Our messages go into silence." Looked at her dying patients. Children, elders, families. People who would live if only she had the missing pieces of the cure. People who would die because the Council had thrown away its best friends. "Then keep trying," she said. "Never stop trying." On a small moon at the edge of Council space, a young woman named was watching the galaxy fall apart from a distance. Was half human. Her mother had been a human diplomat. Her father was a scientist. She had grown up in both worlds, never fully belonging to either one. When the humans left, had chosen to stay. This was her home. These were her people. She believed she could make a difference. Now she was not so sure. She worked as an aide to the ambassador. Every day, she watched the Council fail. Every day, she saw problems that humans would have solved easily. Every day, she felt the absence of her mother's people like a wound that would not heal. "You are quiet today," Ambassador observed. "More than usual." "I am thinking about what could have been," replied. "If the vote had gone differently, if humans had stayed." "Do not torture yourself with such thoughts. What is done is done." "But it did not have to be done." Turned to face the ambassador. "You voted against the motion. You tried to stop it. Why did no one listen?" was silent for a long moment. Fear, she finally said. The others feared humanity because they did not understand them. Humans are strange creatures. They give without expecting return. They help without asking for payment. They sacrifice without demanding reward. To species who think only of power and profit, such behavior is frightening. Why is it frightening to be kind? Because kindness without reason suggests strength we cannot see. The council feared that humans were hiding something, some secret power, some hidden agenda. They could not believe that humans simply wanted to help. Shook her head. That is so stupid. Yes, agreed. It is very stupid, and now we are all paying the price. The war continued to spread. The banking systems collapsed because they could not collect debts from worlds that were burning. The collective suffered damage to their shared mind as millions of their bodies died in the crossfire. The lost 3 of their colony worlds to invaders who saw weakness and attacked. Every day brought new disasters. Every day the council looked for solutions and found none. Every day someone would mention that humans could have helped, and everyone would look away in shame. In the Great Hall, meetings were becoming pointless. Delegates shouted at each other. Alliances broke. Threats were made. High Chancellor tried to maintain order, but his authority was crumbling along with everything else. We need human help, the delegate finally said in one meeting. There, I said what everyone is thinking. We need to ask the humans to come back. They will not come, the delegate growled. We threw them away, they owe us nothing. We could offer them something in return, land, resources, whatever they want. They did not want land or resources before. They wanted respect. We gave them shame instead. The hall fell silent. It was true. Humans had never asked for much, just a seat at the table, just a voice in decisions, just the same rights as everyone else. The council had refused, and now there was nothing left to offer that could undo that refusal. Ambassador stood slowly, all eyes turned to her. I have a suggestion, she said. It will not be easy, it may not work, but it is better than doing nothing. Speak, said. We send a delegation to Earth, not to ask for help, not to beg, just to apologize, to admit that we were wrong, to take responsibility for our mistake. And what good will that do? The delegate demanded. Maybe none, but it is the right thing to do. We wronged humanity. The least we can do is acknowledge it. Looked around the room. And maybe, just maybe, if we show genuine regret, the humans will remember why they helped us in the first place. The debate lasted for hours. Many species refused to apologize. Their pride would not allow it. Others said it was pointless because humans would not listen anyway. A few supported but were afraid to say so loudly. In the end, a small delegation was approved. 5 representatives from 5 species. They would travel to Earth and deliver a formal apology. No requests for help. No expectations of forgiveness. Just honest words admitting honest mistakes. Volunteered to lead the delegation. So did. 3 others joined them, including a young doctor named Kel who had once worked with human colleagues and missed them terribly. They left Council space on a small ship, traveling through dangerous territory. The war had made all routes unsafe. Pirates were everywhere. But they made it through, following paths that were less traveled. After 2 weeks of travel, they reached the edge of human space, and they stopped. Because there was a wall. Not a physical wall, something worse. A barrier of communication blackouts and sensor jammers that made it impossible to contact anyone on the other side. Human technology, simple but effective. They really do not want to talk to us, Kel observed sadly. Can we get through? Asked. Their pilot, who spoke with 100 small voices, studied the readings. We can broadcast a message. Whether anyone will receive it is another question. Send it, ordered. Tell them who we are. Tell them why we have come. Tell them we ask only for the chance to speak. The message was sent. Then they waited. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. sat by the window looking at the stars that her mother had once called home. She used to tell me stories, said quietly, about Earth, about its blue oceans and green forests, about cities filled with people who laughed and cried and loved each other. She said that humans were imperfect but always trying to be better. She said that was what made them special. Did you ever visit? Asked. No, my father did not approve, and after my mother died I stopped. She could not finish. The communicator crackled. A voice came through, human and cautious. Council vessel, this is Earth Defense. We have received your message. Please explain your purpose. Took a deep breath. My name is Ambassador of the. I am leading a delegation from the Galactic Council. We have come to deliver a formal apology to the people of Earth. We ask nothing in return. We simply wish to acknowledge our mistake and express our regret. There was a long silence, then the voice spoke again. Wait. They waited. Minutes stretched into hours. The delegation sat in nervous silence, unsure if they would be allowed to continue or turned away. Finally, the communicator activated again. A different voice this time, older, calmer. Ambassador, this is Chairman of the Earth Council. We have discussed your request. A shuttle will guide you to a landing zone. You will be allowed to deliver your message. But I warn you now, do not expect forgiveness. Some things cannot be undone. We understand, replied. Thank you for this chance. The shuttle appeared and led them through the barrier. As they descended toward Earth, pressed her face against the window, she saw the blue oceans her mother had described, the green forests, the white clouds. It was beautiful, and it felt like coming home. But she knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning. Apologies were easy. Rebuilding trust would take much longer. If it could be rebuilt at all. The delegation landed on Earth with hope in their hearts and fear in their minds. They had come to apologize. They had come to face the consequences of their mistake. They just did not know yet how heavy those consequences would be. The delegation was taken to a simple building in a city called Seoul. It was not a palace. It was not a grand hall like the council chamber. It was just an ordinary building with ordinary walls and ordinary furniture. Ambassador found this strange. When important guests visited the council, they were shown the greatest wonders, the floating gardens, the crystal towers, the monuments to power and history. Humans showed them a conference room with a wooden table. Please sit, Chairman said. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes, but there was steel behind that kindness. Could see it clearly. The delegation sat across from them. He was alone except for a young assistant who stood silently by the door. You said you came to apologize, began. I am listening. Had prepared a speech. Careful words chosen by diplomats, polished phrases designed to sound sincere without admitting too much fault. But looking at its face, she could not say those words. They felt empty. They felt like lies. We made a mistake, she said instead, speaking from her heart. We threw you away because we were afraid. We did not understand your kindness. We thought it was a trick. We thought you wanted something from us that you were not saying. We could not believe that anyone would help without expecting something in return. Nodded slowly, go on. We were fools, blind, arrogant fools, and now our galaxy is burning because of our foolishness. People are dying. Worlds are suffering. Wars are spreading. Everything that you helped build is falling apart. She paused. This was the hardest part. We do not deserve your forgiveness. We know that. We have not come to ask for help. We have come simply to say that we were wrong, and we are sorry. The room was silent, looked at each member of the delegation. His eyes stopped on. You are half human, he observed. Yes, Chairman, replied. Her voice was shaking. My mother was a diplomat named. She served on the council world for 30 years. His eyes softened. I knew she was a good woman. She believed in building bridges between our peoples. She would be sad to see what has happened. She would be sad, agreed. But she would also be hopeful. She always believed that people could change, that mistakes could be lessons, that pain could become wisdom. Your mother was an optimist, said. I am not. I have seen too much to believe in easy change. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the city. Golden light fell on buildings and streets filled with people living their lives in peace. Do you know what the hardest part of leaving was? Asked quietly. It was not the vote. It was not the insults. It was not even the loss of our work and our homes in council space. What was it? Asked. It was knowing that you would suffer without us, and knowing that we would not be there to help, turn to face them. We spent months preparing for our departure. We tried to train replacements for every job we did. We wrote manuals. We offered to teach anyone who wanted to learn. Do you know how many species accepted our offer? No one answered. 3, said. 3 species out of 412. And even those 3 only accepted for minor positions. No one wanted to learn the important things. Everyone assumed they could figure it out themselves. Dr. Kell, the doctor, spoke up. The plague cure, the missing formula, we need it desperately. Millions are dying. I know, said. We have been watching. You have been watching. Kell was shocked. You knew that people were dying and you did nothing. We offered to share that formula before we left. We offered to train doctors in its preparation. Your government refused. They said they did not need human help. His voice was calm but sad. We cannot force people to accept help. We learned that lesson the hard way. But now they accept, Kell pleaded. Now they understand, now they need you. Yes, now they need us. After 2 years of death and suffering, after millions of lives lost, now they are finally willing to listen. Shook his head. Forgive me if I am not impressed by wisdom that comes so late. The delegation sat in heavy silence. Every word spoke was true. Every accusation was deserved. Spoke again. Chairman, I understand your anger, I share it, but there are children dying, innocent people who never voted against humanity, people who were born after the vote and had no say in it. Does their innocence mean nothing? Looked at her for a long moment, then he sighed. You argue like a human, young one, your mother taught you well. He sat down again. The council has spent the last few days examining its archives, trying to understand exactly what humanity contributed during our 200 years of membership. Would you like to know what we found? Nodded, yes, we would. Pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing data and charts that filled the air. Humans made up less than 1% of the council's total population, began. But we performed 40% of all volunteer medical work. We staffed 60% of all emergency response teams. We maintained 70% of communication relays in dangerous areas. We operated 80% of the refugee assistance programs. The numbers kept coming, each one more shocking than the last. We mediated 237 conflicts that would have become wars. We saved an estimated 2 billion lives through our plague research. We taught at 3,000 educational institutions across council space. We provided free engineering support to 412 developing worlds. Looked at the delegation. Do you understand now? We were not asking for power or wealth. We were not building an empire. We were simply helping because it was the right thing to do, because we believed that all species deserved a chance to thrive, because we thought that if we gave enough, others would eventually give back. And instead we threw you away, whispered. You threw us away, confirmed. And the worst part is that we should have expected it. Human history is full of stories like this. People who help until they are used up, then discarded when they are no longer convenient. We just hoped that other species would be different. He closed the holographic display. We were wrong too. The room fell silent again. The weight of the revelations pressed down on everyone present. Dr. Kell was crying. Tears were silent, just small streams of silver liquid running down his bark-like face. What can we do? He asked. How can we make this right? I do not know if you can, admitted. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. Actions speak louder than apologies. You say you are sorry, but words are cheap. What will you do differently? How will you prove that you have changed? No one had an answer. I will share this conversation with the Earth Council. We will discuss whether there is anything we can do to help. But I want you to understand something clearly. Even if we decide to help, it will not be like before. We will not sacrifice our people for species who do not value them. We will not give everything and receive nothing. If there is to be a new relationship, it must be equal, fair, respectful. That is all we ask, said. That is all we ever should have offered in the first place. Then go back to your council. Tell them what you have learned. Tell them that the first step toward healing is understanding how deep the wound goes, and tell them to prepare. Because if we do decide to help, we will have conditions, terms, expectations. This time we will not be quiet. The delegation returned to their ship. The journey back to council space was silent. Everyone was lost in thought, trying to process what they had learned. Sat by the window again, watching Earth shrink behind them. She had touched the world of her mother's birth. She had breathed its air. She had felt its gravity. And she had seen, finally, what humanity truly was. Not a weak species pretending to be strong. Not a naive people waiting to be exploited. But a family of billions who had opened their hearts to the galaxy and had them broken in return. They were not angry anymore. That was what struck most deeply. Had not shouted or threatened. He had simply told the truth, and the truth was more painful than any accusation. When the delegation reached council space, they found things even worse than before. The war had spread to 3 more sectors. 2 species had completely withdrawn from the council. Food shortages were becoming critical on dozens of worlds. Ambassador went directly to High Chancellor. She told him everything. The apology, the conversation, the data about human contributions, the conditions for any future help. Listened in silence. When she finished, he looked older than she had ever seen him. We were blind, he said. Completely, totally blind. We had treasure and we threw it away because we were too stupid to recognize its value. The humans may still help us, said. They have not closed the door completely. But they will have conditions, terms. They will not be our servants anymore. No, they will be our partners, if we are lucky enough to earn that chance. Was quiet for a long time. Then he did something had never seen him do before. He buried his face in his hands and wept. The great High Chancellor of the Galactic Council, ruler of 400 species, master of a civilization that spanned the galaxy. He wept like a child who had broken something precious and only now understood what he had lost. Let him cry, there was nothing else to do. When he finally composed himself, looked up with red eyes. Call a full council meeting. Tomorrow, every species must attend. We have much to discuss. What will you tell them? The truth, all of it. And then we will vote on something new. A resolution of apology, a formal admission of wrong, and an invitation to humanity to rejoin us as equal partners, with full rights, full respect, and full voice. They may not accept. They may not, but we have to try. It is the least we owe them. The next day, the Great Hall was filled once again. 412 species waited to hear what their chancellor would say. Spoke for 3 hours. He presented the data on human contributions. He described the delegation's visit to Earth. He read words about trust and fairness. He admitted his own failures. He took responsibility for the vote he had allowed to happen. When he finished, the hall was silent. No shouting this time. No anger, just shame, heavy and thick, filling every corner of the room. Then one by one, delegates began to stand, not to argue, to agree, to admit their own roles in the tragedy, to commit to doing better. The vote on the resolution of apology was unanimous. 412 species agreed to invite humanity back. But as watched the votes come in, she knew this was only the beginning. Votes were easy. Changing hearts was hard. And humanity had not yet responded. They could only wait and hope that the bridge burned 2 years ago could somehow be rebuilt. If it could be rebuilt at all. The resolution of apology was sent to Earth the same day it was passed. Every species signed it. Every delegate added their personal statement of regret. The document was longer than any treaty in Council history. Then they waited. 1 week passed, no response. 2 weeks passed, still nothing. A month went by. The silence from Earth was complete. In the Great Hall, fear began to grow. Had they waited too long? Had they destroyed any chance of reconciliation? Was humanity gone forever? High Chancellor sent additional messages, personal letters, diplomatic requests, trade offers, military alliance proposals. He offered everything the Council had, everything he could think of that might tempt humans to respond. Silence. The war between thee and the reached a terrible peak. Both sides used weapons that had been forbidden for centuries. Entire planets were burned. Billions died. And still no one could stop the fighting because no one knew how. The plague on continued to spread. The death count reached 80 million. Doctors worked until they collapsed. Nothing helped. The missing pieces of the cure remained locked in human minds that would not share. Ambassador sent her own message to his family on Earth, a personal plea from one friend to another. She asked for nothing except to know that the message had been received. Silence. Spent her nights looking at the stars, wondering if her human relatives were looking back, wondering if they thought of her, wondering if they cared that she was trapped on this side of the barrier, watching everything burn. Then, exactly 2 months after the resolution was sent, a message came. It was short, just 3 words, "We will come." Nearly collapsed when he heard. The news spread across Council space like fire. Humans were coming. Humans would help. Everything would be saved. But when the human delegation arrived, their faces were not filled with joy. They did not smile or offer warm greetings. They walked into the great hall with calm expressions and sat in the empty human seat that had been waiting for 2 years. Chairman led the delegation. He was joined by 12 others, including Ambassador, who had come out of retirement for this moment. "Thank you for coming," said, his voice shaking with relief. "We are grateful beyond words." "Save your gratitude," replied. "We are here to talk. Nothing has been decided yet." The hall fell silent. This was not the joyful reunion many had hoped for. This was a negotiation. "We have read your resolution," continued. "Your apology is accepted. We believe you are sincere in your regret, but regret alone is not enough. If we return, things must be different." "We agree," said quickly. "Tell us what you want. Whatever it is, we will give it." "You cannot give what we want. You can only prove it over time." Looked around the hall. "We want respect, not words of respect, real respect, actions of respect, decisions that show you value us as equals, not as servants. You will have full membership, full voting rights, everything you had before and more." "We had those rights before. They were taken away by a vote. What stops you from doing the same thing again in 10 years, in 20, when you no longer need us and we become inconvenient once more?" Had no answer. "This is our condition," said. "We will help you now because innocent lives are at stake. We will share the plague cure. We will send diplomats to end your wars. We will repair what can be repaired. But we will not become permanent members of this council again." Murmurs of shock ran through the hall. "Instead," continued, "we propose a new arrangement. Humanity will maintain a permanent embassy in council space. We will offer our services as mediators, healers, and helpers. But we will charge fair prices for our work. We will negotiate contracts for each project. We will be partners, not servants." "That is unusual," said carefully. "It is practical. It protects us from being exploited again. And it reminds you every single day that our help is a gift you must earn, not a right you can demand. The debate lasted for hours. Many delegates argued against the terms. They wanted the old relationship back. They wanted humans to return to their quiet service without conditions. But spoke then, and her words silenced the objections. For 200 years we gave everything and asked for almost nothing. We built your hospitals. We taught your children. We protected your trade routes. We cured your diseases. We stopped your wars. We did all of this because we believed in kindness, because we thought that our good deeds would create a community of mutual support. She paused and looked at the delegates who had argued against the terms. We were naive. We expected too much from species who think only of power. We gave trust before it was earned. We offered love to those who did not understand it. Her voice hardened. We will not make that mistake again. If you want our help, you will pay for it, not in gold or resources, but in respect, in fair treatment, in the understanding that we are not your tools to use and discard. Accept these terms and we will help you rebuild. Reject them and we will leave, this time forever. The hall was silent. Every delegate knew she was right. Every delegate remembered how they had treated humans before. The casual dismissals, the unspoken assumptions, the quiet belief that humans were somehow lesser. They could not argue, they could only accept. The vote passed unanimously. Humanity would return as partners, not members, equal in respect, independent in action. That night the first human medical teams arrived on. They brought the complete plague cure. Within 3 days the infection rate began to drop. Within 2 weeks no new cases were reported. Within a month the plague was declared over. They wept in the streets. They built statues of human doctors. They named children after the ones who had saved them. At the same time, human diplomats traveled to the war zones. They met with and leaders separately. They listened to grievances. They validated anger. They found common ground that neither side had seen. The ceasefire was signed within 2 months. The peace treaty followed 6 months later. A war that had killed billions was ended by 12 humans who simply knew how to listen. Across council space, the rebuilding began. Human engineers repaired broken systems. Human teachers returned to schools. Human volunteers restarted aid programs that had been abandoned. But something was different this time. Every service came with a contract. Every helper was paid fairly. Every project had clear terms and expectations. Humans did not sacrifice themselves anymore. They worked hard, but they also rested. They gave generously, but they also received. And they were respected. Not with empty words, but with actions. Species that had once ignored humans now sought their advice. Leaders who had voted against them now asked for their wisdom. The council, humbled by its mistakes, listened when humans spoke. Years passed, the galaxy healed slowly. The wars ended, the plagues were cured, trade routes reopened. Peace, fragile but real, settled over council space. In the great hall, the human seat was filled once again. Not by a member of the council, but by a permanent ambassador who observed and advised but did not vote. Ambassador held that position. Her human and heritage made her perfect for the role. She understood both worlds. She could translate not just languages, but cultures. She could explain human thinking to aliens and alien thinking to humans. She sat in that seat on the 10th anniversary of humanity's return. High Chancellor, old now and near the end of his life, gave a speech marking the occasion. 10 years ago, we invited humanity back. We begged them to forgive us. We promised to do better, and slowly, painfully, we have begun to keep that promise. He looked at with genuine affection. The human seat in this hall reminds us every day of what we almost lost. A species that gave without condition. A people who helped without reward. A family of billions who loved a galaxy that did not love them back. His voice cracked. We did not deserve a second chance, but humanity gave us one anyway, not because we earned it, but because that is who they are. That is what makes them special. That is why we must never forget the lesson we learned. He turned to address the entire hall. The lesson is simple. Kindness is not weakness. Generosity is not foolishness. When someone offers you help without asking for return, do not ask what they want. Ask what you can give. Because species like humanity are rare in this universe, and when you find one, you hold on tight and never let go. The hall erupted in applause. Not the polite applause of diplomacy, but genuine, heartfelt celebration. Delegates stood. They cheered. Some wept openly. Watched it all with mixed feelings. She was proud of how far the council had come. She was glad that humans were respected now. But she also remembered the years of suffering, the deaths that did not have to happen, the wars that could have been avoided. After the ceremony, Chairman found her. He was very old now, his hair white, his step slow, but his eyes were still sharp. "You look thoughtful," he observed. "I am remembering my mother," replied. "She believed that species could change, that mistakes could become lessons. I am wondering if she was right." "What do you think?" Looked at the great hall, now empty except for the two of them. "I think change is possible, but I also think it should not have taken so much pain to achieve it. Millions died, worlds burned, all because the council could not understand simple kindness." "That is true," agreed, "but we cannot change the past. We can only shape the future." "Do you think it will last, this respect they show us now?" Smiled. It was a tired smile, but also hopeful. "Ask me again in 100 years. Ask there. Trust is built slowly, tested constantly, and never fully guaranteed, but it is still worth building." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your mother would be proud of you. You have become the bridge she always dreamed of. Human and council and earth, past and future." Felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ambassador, for staying when others left, for believing when others doubted, for being human even when the galaxy did not deserve humanity's gift." He walked away slowly, leaving alone in the great hall. She looked up at the ceiling where floating crystals still danced in ancient patterns. She thought about everything that had happened: the vote, the departure, the collapse, the slow, painful rebuilding. And she thought about the future, a future where humans and aliens worked together as equals, a future where kindness was valued instead of feared, a future that her mother had dreamed of and that was helping to build. It was not perfect, it never would be, but it was better than before. And sometimes thought better was enough. She left the great hall and walked out into the light of the council world's 3 moons. In the distance, a human ship was landing, bringing more volunteers to help with the ongoing reconstruction. Humans departing quietly had taught the galaxy a lesson. Now humans returning with conditions were teaching another lesson. Both lessons were the same: value what you have before it is gone, respect those who help you, and never ever take kindness for granted. The galaxy had learned these lessons the hard way, but at least it had learned them. And that, in the end, was the only victory that mattered.